you have it, I'll just come right up here and you'll be on. Let me see. Yep, I'm here. Yep, they are. They'll come up to the podium whenever you're ready for them.
I'm ready for them. So, first, person I'd like to speak to is the police chief.
That'd be you.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So I have, I did forward some questions to the mayor. I hope that he forwarded those on to you, just some things that I wanted to talk to you about. And then I also asked the mayor for a follow-up meeting on Monday, so we can have some more in-depth discussions about things that we might want to keep more discreet, I guess is what I would like.
Okay.
Did he forward you the questions that I was going to ask?
I have some, yes.
Okay, so one of the, amid this coronavirus outbreak and the nationwide pandemic, I wanted to be able to talk to you about needs and policies and procedures. So that's really the reason why I wanted to talk to you first.
Okay.
So, and Ira, feel free to chime in when you feel you need to. So the first question I had was, have you done a needs assessment for the police department? So, for example, do you have everything you need in terms of like masks and gloves and cleaning supplies? Do you have the necessary supplies during this pandemic?
I'll answer that two ways. Very early on, we did an inventory check of what supplies we would have if this broke and what we might need. So I would say at this point, we do have PPE as per the CDC guidelines for law enforcement. We have N95 masks and we have eye protection that officers can take out on patrol. But you can never have enough in a situation like that. I'm sure the fire chief would agree. But for our needs are very different from the fire department. So from a law enforcement standpoint, we don't burn through as many masks as they might. So we do have enough to carry us through a certain point, and we're fortunate to be in that position through a lot of friendships with other agencies, getting lines on supply chains, and through the Clinton County EOC, they've been very helpful.
And what about cleaning supplies? Make sure that everything is cleaned and sanitized between individuals touching keyboards and doorknobs and things like that. Do you have everything you need there?
At this point, yes, but we will probably, those will need to be replenished sooner than the mass other PPE. So that's something we've identified too, is what we currently have in terms of cleaning supplies that will allow us to maintain a clean station, but also implementing a procedure where all the shared use items such as keyboards, telephone receivers, doorknobs, police vehicles, those kind of things are cleaned on a shift basis. So at the start of the shift and as necessary, depending on the call that an officer might go out on. But at least every shift. Just so there's no, they can verify the cleaning when they start the shift.
Have you identified any staffing needs at this point?
Um, Mostly they're the future projections. So where our department might be if things uh, if an officer becomes quarantined, how many officers that might be, just more the worst case scenario type projections.
Okay, I wanted to be able to get into that question a little, more in depth a little later on. Counselor Barbell, did you have anything you wanted to ask in terms of liaison?
Yeah, I had just a question, Chief. With the personal protection, masks, gloves, have you directed the patrol when they stop somebody that they are putting on a mask and they're putting on gloves? So if they ask for license and registration and they're handed things from inside the car, is there a protocol that you've established around that so that they're not putting themselves in a position of being infected in some way?
Yeah, and those are per the CDC guidelines for law enforcement. So we're just mirroring the best practices.
So that means, yes, they are putting on a mask and they are not.
In certain situations, yes. In certain situations, yes.
Are you guys still doing a full for traffic stops in every situation where you would have before the pandemic?
That's hard to answer because
So this one I'm saying from reading a lot of what other departments are doing, they're basically being, trying to be reluctant, I guess, in making traffic stops.
from our department, there's no formal directive from me to stop conducting traffic stops. I've directed common sense to apply in all situations, specifically in person-to-person encounters. So I'm not saying don't discontinue traffic stops. What I'm saying is when situations present themselves that a car needs to be stopped, that's when they're stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay, so, my next question was, are there policies or procedures that you've changed within the police department? So we know that the best practice is social distancing, but I'm wondering what you're doing to reduce contact with the public. So for example, have you changed in any way, how you handle walk-ins or you've kind of already touched on the routine stops, but what are your official policies and procedures now to maintain the health and welfare of your staff, under this pandemic?
So I think you just touched on it a little bit. Probably the most extreme action taken so far is limiting the lobby visits. So I put something out this week to the public that we're not excluding, we're asking that non-emergency visits to the police department not take place and they be conducted over the phone. And that emergencies will be accepted as walk-ins anytime. But just to try and reduce the amount of traffic that comes to the police station, and really that is twofold. It is to protect the people that have to work in the police department, but it's also to reduce the amount of cross-contamination that might exist on the entry door of the police station, that every person that walks in, if we can reduce that as another contact point that is a potential contamination point, that's the reasoning behind that.
So in partnership with that point that you just made, I'm going to go back to this idea of cleaning. Do you have a policy in place now that when you have a lobby visit, are doorknobs being routinely cleaned after each visit, or how are you handling that?
The lobby is deep cleaned every day.
You said you put something out to the public. Do you have that to share with Ira and me? I'd like to see what that looks like.
I would have to.
A formal, excuse me, some kind of formal announcement, is that something you can share with Ira and me?
I can if you just give me 15 seconds to pull it up.
It doesn't have to be right now,
Oh.
just saying,
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yes.
yeah.
It's
So,
sorry.
Ira, do you have any questions?
I mean, it was just striking me as as I was thinking about this, limiting the access into the police station, and you mentioned something about emergency and non-emergency, and are the dispatchers, changing, for example, if you have a patrol out on the field and a call comes in and it's not an emergency, somebody took something from someone's house and they just located it, there's nobody there, there's no need for an emergency response to that because you're not going to catch anybody. Are those calls prioritized in a way that you respond to those when there's time to respond to those versus a patrol officer going out?
Probably a different example is what I would use. In the case of those type of larcenies, we would still need to see if there's a crime scene that exists, which would require an in-person visit. Mostly we're talking about harassment over the internet as an example, where there is no crime scene, there is no absolute necessity to be in front of somebody. That business can be conducted over the phone. Not always, but if there is a noise complaint, there's no way to conduct that over the telephone. So when possible, we try to conduct non-emergency calls over the phone.
I have another question about best practices for social distancing. What's your procedure now? For example, when you have officers, I'm assuming you don't allow officers to congregate in like a break room, and are they mandated to practice the 10-foot social distancing as well? And how are you monitoring that to make sure it's enforced properly?
So when it permits, I'll give you an example. Yesterday we were trying to locate and safely trap a moose. Something like that doesn't lend itself to social distancing, where officers are going to have to be close together in certain situations. In arrest situations, that's not practical. There are certain functions that will not be practical, but when it is practical, yes.
And how are you communicating these policies and procedures to your officers? Does that come out as like a daily briefing? Does it come into them by email? How does that communicate?
It's a combination. I feel like there are two really good components of issuing something directive-wise. One is speaking to people face to face, and the other is having it written. Every policy change or procedure change or update goes out to everybody in an email form, so it is written and it can be referred to. But before that happens, usually there are a variety of visits and meetings, gathering information, finding out if the stuff will work, are there barriers to it being implemented, things like that, before I just arbitrarily make a decision, making sure that I'm making it for the right reasons.
Do you do daily briefings with your officers right now during this pandemic?
I don't personally. That's conducted every shift, though. So the newest, every shift. So every 12 hours, there's a briefing.
Who does the briefing in your absence?
So I don't ever conduct briefings. That's done at the shift level by the shift supervisor.
And those are sergeants, right?
A sergeant or a corporal.
So you kind of touched on, or we both kind of touched on personnel. Do you have a plan in place for what changes you're going to make to personnel in the event you have infected officers? Do you have a strategic plan yet?
I do. I would rather not share that over this channel.
No, I understand. So
Yes.
can this be something we discuss in depth on Monday?
Yes.
Okay. Ira, do you have a question about that?
No, not at all.
Okay, so we'll discuss on Monday. So have you made any changes to your patrol schedules in downtown since businesses aren't open and college is all but closed because of the pandemic?
So that would be a decision based on a review of what calls are coming in. And a review of the calls coming in, that there's actually a slight increase in the amount and types of calls that are coming in.
In what way?
Just that the amount of calls that are coming in are not reflective of the absence of college students or businesses. There are still,
Are you
sorry?
able to share what the nature of those calls are?
They are across the board. There is no one particular spike in any area, but I would say a review of the weekly blotters indicates that we're receiving just slightly more calls than before the state of emergency.
Now, that brings up another question, Chief, which is very similar to that. Are there any crimes or any reported complaints that have increased since the essentially lockdown went into effect? I imagine, like, for example, I imagine you get more noise complaints because people are home to hear noises.
I would say the two that jump out to the top are DWI and domestic related offenses.
I would expect the domestic related offenses, but I imagine DWIs to go down.
Well, I'll give you a scenario. This is what we're seeing in at least the Plattsburgh area and surrounding areas, that because there are no bars that are open, there's no way to regulate the amount of alcohol consumption when someone purchases it. And if a person is home drinking throughout the day and they forget, oh, I need to get a pack of cigarettes or something else, and they just drive, there's no one there to be like, hey, you probably shouldn't drive. So there are more daytime DWI arrests that we are finding. Not necessarily in the city of Plattsburgh, but at least in the surrounding areas.
Interesting.
So have your patrol priorities changed at all during this?
Absolutely. So the patrol priorities are keeping the public safe in a time like this where social distancing is, I'll steal the phrase from Aaron Strife, it's the only tool that we have to use at this point is social distancing to combat this epidemic or this pandemic. So that's really at the forefront of what our mission is being driven by. Obviously, we respond to calls for service where there are victims of crimes, and we are proactive in other senses too. But really, the main thing that we are the main thing that we have at our mission is making sure that the public is safe when it comes to this disease. And that's through social distancing and social distancing as a general term, but that could mean a bunch of different things. In stores, in public, recreationally. We received a call this week of a 90% off sale at Walgreens, and the store was flooded. And someone called and said, this is a problem. So we went over there and tried to rectify that situation where there was the lack of social distancing inside a commercial establishment. So it's things like that that, 2 months ago, a 90% off sale would have been viewed very differently than it is today, where that's a very big problem when it comes to people being contaminated or carrying or exposing another person to this, potentially.
Are you getting a lot of complaints besides the one you just, one example, are you getting other complaints, about the breaking of the social distancing rule? So for example, are you getting phone calls that, oh, there's a party going on and
No,
is it happening?
not really.
Before I move on, Ira, do you have any questions about patrol?
Not about patrol,
Okay. So my next question has to do with the finances. And you may or may not be able to answer these, and this may need to be a more in-depth conversation on Monday. So I'll pose the question, and then you can maybe answer whether or not this is something to talk about now or on Monday. But so police and fire maintain the largest financial burden on our budget. I want to know if you have started to do a financial analysis in any way. So for example, are you already looking at what you can cut? What can you reduce? In what ways can you increase revenue to offset loss of sales tax this year? So I don't know if you can answer that now, but it's definitely something we need to talk about. So can you share your thoughts on that right now?
I'll share my thoughts. Obviously, that would take a very, very large amount of time to, I mean, that's more of a deep dive into a lot of different factors. I would say financially, the thing that we are focusing on that we would probably not have been is prioritizing PPE acquisition. The cost of PPE, masks, gloves, eyeglasses, personal protection related to this, it costs more because it is so scarce. So we're doing the best we can while still trying to maintain a certain inventory of this, because if we don't get it now, if we have an opportunity to get it, you know, that might come down the road 2 months from now where we don't, and we have to reuse dirty masks because we don't have any. So we're trying to be fiscally conservative in every regard, and that's regardless of this pandemic. We don't have a lot of areas that we can cut though, so we're just trying to be mindful of that and making sure that we are being conservative.
So I saw an article in the paper today that the Quilters Guild is making masks, and I also saw posted on Facebook some local tattooing parlors because they're clearly not able to run their businesses right now. They're donating masks and gloves, and I don't know if that is an avenue that we explore within the city. I brought that up with the mayor earlier.
So I can speak to that because this was actually addressed by the health department today, is being mindful of what those masks actually are. The ones that are being sewn are not rated for a person to, they're not rated for a first responder type personnel. That those are more for the person who is sick to not contaminate. So they caution people of what level of protection they're actually getting. Even if it is a mask, like there are certain ratings for different kinds of masks. So the ones we would need to use to protect our officers they're very difficult. They have to be procured commercially.
Ira, do you have any questions you want to chime in?
Well, you know, I'd like to talk more when we are there Monday about the budgeting issue, and you know, nobody knows for sure what the reduction in revenue is going to be for the city, but you can anticipate a substantial reduction in revenue. And when you look at the sales tax drop and and what's happening in New York State. And so, but I think we can go into a broader conversation on that. I just have a pet issue that we've already talked once about, and I would like, and if you give me information on false alarms, that the 300 or so false alarms that the police department are responding to in the course of the year. And I want to talk with the chief Scott Wallace as well, about false alarms, and perhaps have a conversation with you about your ideas about the type of ordinance that might be able to be put in place that could have some potential to reduce the number of alarms that your officers are having to respond to. And I think you told me out of the 308, 300 of them were false alarms, essentially, that people were responding to. That's a lot of staff hours that are tied up. And so we can talk more about that, on Monday, and then maybe go to the next week or two to try to figure out if there is an ordinance that works from their perspective as well as the fire department's perspective.
Certainly.
Okay, so we need to take a break. I want to finish this up, but we have a 5 o'clock hearing scheduled, and it's 5 o'clock. So can we take a break from our committee meeting to do the public hearing and then resume our public safety meeting? I'm going to mute myself while the public hearing is going on.
Colin, this is where you call the public hearing.
Let's begin with the City of Plattsburgh is holding a public hearing to hear public comment on the proposed abandonment of Division Street, which action may result in a change in the official map of the City of Plattsburgh. Are there any members of the public that'll please like to come and comment on this public hearing?
There's local law on the division.
Yeah, the other one's at 5:30.
We have two here, right? Okay, let me
You're
do.
coming up pretty hard to hear, at least on my end. But yeah, Mayor, the first one at 5 o'clock is the local law on the water rates, and then at 5:30, I believe we'll do the public hearing on the abandonment of Division Street.
Okay, let me go and get that form that I think is on Best Pass. Do you want to comment on the local law?
Beth, I can hear you, but it's like you're echoey and on a delay. I think that we were running a meeting, with Mike a few days ago, and he had the same problem because there were other apps open while he was trying to run Zoom. So if you close anything in the background, it probably is gonna make a difference for you. A little better.
Okay, I've got the local law here, just a second, I'm gonna move something. This is local law. City of Plattsburgh is holding a public hearing to hear public comments on local law P2 of 2020, a local law amending in its entirety City Code Section 34824, and setting water service rates and enacting regulations for the levy and collection of the water charges. There's no members of the public that would like to speak. There is one chat comment here. Terry Broderick is asking why we're holding a meeting of any kind. No other comments on YouTube either then. Just let me give it a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm prepared to then close the public hearing on the local law. Please continue.
Okay, so I have just a couple of things for, police chief here, and I have similar questions for Chief Wallace. So, Chief Ritter,
Yes.
is he there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. To other law enforcement entities like the SUNY Police Department, the sheriff, or the state police to create a kind of strategic plan in the event, for example, you have a significant number of officers that can't report because they're quarantined or the possibility of illness, or are you coordinating with them in any way to create a county-wide strategic plan, especially since with a reduced number of students on campus, it seems to me you've got some resource there with the SUNY Police Department, and I wasn't sure if you have reached out to them to collaborate on some kind of strategic plan. Or if you would rather leave that for discussion Monday, that's fine too, but.
I would like to reserve that for Monday, but yes, I'll just answer yes.
Okay.
As to the nuts and bolts of it, that's more of a. I'll reserve that if you want to have comments after on Monday.
Okay. Ira, do you have any questions?
No, I think I'll just pull mine to Monday too, I think, on this.
Okay, and so, I have one final thing for Chief Ritter. It was brought to my attention today that there is a possibility, no guarantee of course, but there might be FEMA reimbursement, after this is done. So, Mayor Reed, I was thinking it would be a really great, idea to come from you and the entire council to direct departments to keep a log of expenditures during the pandemic if there arises an opportunity for reimbursement. And it would be efficient for our departments to be keeping track of these things as they happen, you know, like a running log. And I didn't know, I don't know if that was being done. Just something that came to me today.
Would you like me to comment on that?
Sure.
From our department, costs incurred, we could easily pull out the expenditures because they really live in one category, and that's the supplies end. It'd be hard to attribute like overtime cost to that unless it was directly related, and that might be something that is down the road we might experience, and we might be able to directly correlate that. But really at this point, we're only talking about supplies. But yeah, we have a way to, it's fairly easy to keep track of it at this point.
Yeah,
But also
that's
part of that,
if something happens down the road and God forbid this pandemic becomes more pronounced in the county, and of course that's what we're all concerned about, and then it ends up becoming a burden in other unexpected ways, it'd be a good idea for a log to be created and keep track of it if there's an opportunity for any kind of reimbursement. So.
certainly.
Ira, do you have any questions?
No?
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Police Chief Ritter? I guess not.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, so I was hoping that I could have the same conversation with Chief Lawless. Is he there?
I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. So I was going to ask you some similar questions. Some aren't going to be the same because needs are different. But but, first question I had for you was the same as I had for Chief Ritter, which is, have you done a needs assessment for your department?
Absolutely.
What you need?
We did that 3 weeks ago. Okay, we did 3 weeks ago. With this was starting to show itself, and being that we're emergency medical services, we had a little lead time on it. We started stockpiling some of our needs, what we thought, make sure that if they did become short, we would have them. Reached out, got our N95s, and got what we needed for any cleaning and sanitizing products that we would use, along with personal protective equipment, higher than what law enforcement uses.
Ira, did you have any questions?
No, I just said the same thing I talked to the chief about. I'd like to have a conversation with you at some point about, the alarms, the number of alarms that are being responded to by the fire department and how they're classified, so that we could distinguish whether or not they're good use of your staff time, or whether there are false alarms that are coming in that are eating up some of your staff time.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna switch into the financial discussion. It would be really great if you could also do a financial analysis, knowing that revenues coming into the city are gonna be tight. Is there anything that you can work on to reduce cost or cut, knowing that your finances might be difficult in several months into the year? So I don't know if that's something you've started to do.
Yes, we already have several things that we initiated on Wednesday last week to help eliminate that and to lessen some of the burdens. So one of them is we are running a second ambulance now full-time under the direction of the mayor. I declared a state of emergency in the fire department. And upon doing that, we have eliminated any leave requests. The only time off that any members get from this point forward until we lift that state of emergency is sick time.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Chief Lawless about that? Okay. And so I'm going to present to you the same thing that I just presented to Chief Ritter about FEMA reimbursement. So
Yes.
it'd be a great idea probably to keep track of any costs incurred through this pandemic in case there's any kind of reimbursement. So.
That's already in play. We've been doing that for over a week. Any PPE usage, there's a form that's filled out that tells you what was used, what call it was on, why it was generated, and that is already being logged. All time that we use has been logged. Any supplies that we buy is logged. That's part of a FEMA reimbursement. We do that anyway with any disaster.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions for Chief Lawless?
Chief, when you're looking at your equipment, the capital cost for replacement, are you concerned about any particular piece of equipment that you have that may be in need of either repair or replacement?
Right now, given the operations that we're doing, my reserve ambulance is now running frontline. It's not a call two. We split the city into, I've divided the city into a north division and a south division. What it does is it's part of our isolation plan, and it allows us to, our response time is down, our efficiencies are up with that. That ambulance is an 07, and it's working to make sure that it stays operational during this time. I'm also looking at contingency plans.
Have you heard at all about what's happening with surrounding jurisdictions, South Plattsburgh, Morrisonville, Beamantown, Cumberland Head, that have quasi-professional, staff operating ambulances? Are they running into any difficulties with this? Have you been asked to respond to calls in any of those areas?
No, they are taken care of by a professional department, and that's CVPH. So when we ran the second ambulance, what that did was it eliminated any mutual aid calls coming in, which added a resource to the town. So we take care of ours, they're taking care of theirs. That makes sure that they aren't coming in unless we absolutely necessarily need them.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions for Chief Lawless? Okay, it doesn't sound like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does Joe have anything to report to us as counselors tonight?
Hello, Counselor.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Did you have anything that you wanted to report out to us this evening?
Just want to let you know that our office is operating as best we can right now from remote locations. Phone calls are coming in, all the messages are being automatically routed to Lisa. The guys leave their homes, go directly to the vehicles. They've got their own vehicles so they don't cross-contaminate. Going right out of the field, doing permit inspections, keeping the safety protocols, social distancing. We're trying to accommodate the needs of the people as best we can.
Okay.
I have a question just in terms of, with the requirement that a lot of the smaller, construction companies are shut down. You know, what are the kinds of requests that are coming into you?
Well, it seems now is a good time for people to plan on projects. So that's with a lot of people home, I'm getting calls like that where I've had to meet some people out in the field and discuss what they want to do and if they can do it in the future, whether it meets zoning, building codes, that kind of thing.
One other quick question too is, you know, with the application for permits, and I don't pretend to know what types of permits other than a building permit, if you're making an addition on a house or something, but is there potential for putting those permits online?
Everything is online right now.
Great.
Everybody can do that. Submit it electronically. We don't have a way to take the money right now, but they're mailing checks, or they drop it in the city's Dropbox.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to move items 2, 1 through I'm scrolling through 6 to the regular agenda for tonight.
Oh,
Okay. Roll call? Roll call?
Counselor Gibb,
Yes.
Counselor Gibb,
Beth, you're locking up and
Let me finish that, Counselor Barb, pardon me, D. Dominicus, are you the second on this one? No, it's Barbell, Counselor Barbell,
yes.
and Mayor Reed, yes.
Okay. Do we have any items for old business? Well, I have something for new business. That was brought to my attention. I have a woman who lives in my ward who is being tormented by nuisance animals because her property borders some college housing, and the students are leaving the tops off garbage cans. They're spraying food around their property, which is attracting animals, and now she's got a significant issue with her property now. She has contacted Noah Phillips, but his inbox is full. and he hasn't returned her phone calls. The nuisance animals are now doing property damage. So, and she's already called code enforcement, and Joe has already responded to her phone calls. But I'm at a loss about what to do to help her at this point. She's following all of her normal protocols. She's making phone calls, but the nuisance animals are now doing property damage. So can we get some feedback on the chiefs about, or I'm sorry, Chief Ritter and Joe, about what we can do to help this woman at this point? Should she just keep calling the code enforcement and our police department, or what should she do?
Well, I'll take the first swing at that, I guess. So, I mean, what my office can do is make sure that the garbage is contained properly. I'm not familiar with exactly where you're talking about, because you haven't, I don't believe you've given the address yet, but certainly.
No, I didn't want to give it, but would you like me to, if it's okay with the mayor, can I forward you the email that she sent me, which is very extensive in terms of what has happened? Is that okay with the mayor?
Could you just get it to Beth and she'll immediately forward it for you?
Okay, I'll do that.
And you
Should
say.
she call what should she do about her property damage? And that's really where this is going. She's got a few $100s worth of property damage because of the nuisance animals. One of them has found its way into her property, and now she's kind of at a loss. So, do you have any recommendation or suggestion there?
I don't know that I have a recommendation. I'll leave it to the chief.
So her neighbors have garbage out. They either put tops on the garbage, or they're leaving out scraps of food on purpose on their property, and it's attracting possums, squirrels, skunks, and the squirrel has found its way into her property. It chewed through, I think, an awning, and has done damage to her house.
Okay.
And it's all a result of the garbage and attracting these animals. So, does anybody have any advice about what to do next in terms of that?
It would seem to me that the animal control officer should be, have her come and meet your place and look at perhaps setting out a few traps and catching these animals. And
He's done that. According to her, he's done that already, but because the neighbors won't stop with they won't maintain the garbage properly. It's a never-ending battle, and now there's property damage involved.
So I would just say it's very difficult to go back for however long this has taken place and try and remedy that problem for her. If we could have been included way earlier in terms of identifying the potential problems with it, there may have been a better remedy. But as for what she can do now, it'd be very difficult to comment on that without knowing a lot of the particulars. If damage is occurring from animals, it's not like we can arrest anybody for that. That would be more of a civil process, civil liability.
Okay. All right, so I'll forward her email to Joe, and she also emailed me a list of suggestions, and I'll follow up with Ira on that in the council. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a quick issue, since we've got a few minutes left, for Matt Miller. I got an email today also, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but this is easy, that they were saying the lights are on at the gym all night. And if there's a safety reason that they're on at the gym, that's fine. And I'd be glad to go back and share that with her. But she said it just doesn't look good with the austere environment that we're moving into, to have a building that's closed that has lights on.
Yeah, I'll look into that right away. If there's no safety reason to have the lights on, we'll be sure to turn them off for duration.
Let me know, and I'll get back in touch with her.
Okay, we'll do it.
Thanks, thank you.
Yep.
Do you have any other new business for public safety?
Yes, I have something to say, Elizabeth.
public safety. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Barbell,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Yes?
The meeting is adjourned at 5:46.
So please, everybody mute their volume or their microphones. I'd like to begin the work session then for tonight. We've only got a couple of minutes and we're beginning our meeting right away with the hearing. Anything people would like to discuss at this time? Let's then entertain any reports you'd like to offer, beginning with Governance and Councillor Barbell. Moving to, let's see, my list here. City infrastructure, Councillor Moore.
I didn't have anything new to report at this time.
Okay, finance and budget, Councillor Kelly.
I think I'm good.
Public safety, Councillor Gibbs.
So nothing new to add. We had our regular meetings tonight, and I want to thank Chief Ritter, Chief Lawless, and Supervisor Wood for all the hard work and keeping the city safe and continuing its business, and appreciate all of your input and feedback.
Public library, Councillor DeDominicus. And MLD Board President, Councillor McFarland.
Yes, the municipal lighting department is still functioning, and the Public Service Commission has so far they're following up with what our MLD did locally, and is not shutting off anyone's power or charging late fees until June. And the governor, I believe, the Public Service Commission directed that as well. They're also engaged in a pretty comprehensive social distancing policy. Inside, they have a social distancing of 10 feet at all times. A place where they can't have social distancing is on the lines. People are climbing up pools. When they do that, they've set up the schedule to make sure that they are always in two-person groups and that those two people are always together. So at least if a room is contaminated, at least is rather constrained. They also have N95 masks for when they are going to do things 10 seconds to each other. So anyone gets sick, get the other sick. Other than that, there's no other things.
Thank you. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance for our council meeting tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you want to do the public hearing first or the roll call?
I can do the public hearing. How about if we do that? We'll get the public hearing concluded. City of Plattsburgh is holding a public hearing to hear public comment on the proposed abandonment of Division Street, which action may result in a change on the official map of the City of Plattsburgh. There's no members of the public here to speak on this public hearing. Let's give it 30 seconds for the YouTube chat. No comment on the YouTube chat, so please proceed with roll call then.
Mayor Reed,
Present?
Councilor Barbell,
Here.
Councilor Kelly,
Here.
Councilor Gibbs. Here. Councilor DeDominicis. Here. Councilor McFarland. Councilor Moore.
Here.
For my comments, I think it's well documented what our city's having to deal with right now. Just hold on for a second. But I'm very proud of the role the city's been playing in keeping the services going so people can maintain comfort and know they're safe in their homes. Certainly our first responders been great. We're all supporting ultimately the people in the hospital and the medical profession that are keeping our most vulnerable population safe. And I do have a short proclamation I'd like to read tonight. Whereas the city and our region is facing an unprecedented challenge to our health and livelihood, whereas the coronavirus crisis is growing, is inundating our health care systems, and these challenges shall continue for weeks and months. Whereas the economic challenges will last much longer and will affect some of our residents far more profoundly than others. And whereas our city has not faced a challenge of this sort and challenge of such as this in any of our lifetimes, whereas our city understands the severity of these challenges, and whereas we are a resilient community that demonstrates when we face the worst, it can bring out the best among us. Whereas many of our residents depend on the better angels among us who are in the caring professions and risk their lives to keep us safe. And whereas we are all doing our part to support these heroes who work to keep us safe by keeping them safe by us working from home. Therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Colin Reed of the City of Plattsburgh, hereby recognizes our heroes, the nurses and doctors, healthcare workers who risk themselves to help our most vulnerable, and first responders, taxi drivers, and delivery people who keep us safe and deliver services so we can stay at home, the city employees who provide essential service to allow us to stay at home, and people who do small but meaningful things such as sewing masks for the community while our frontline workers wait in line for protective devices. I thank you very much. Please continue.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on March 12th, 2019, March 19th, 2020, are approved and placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Kelly and second by, just raise your hand, Councilor Barbell. All in favor? You can just raise your hand. Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the City of Plattsburgh for the week ending March 25th, 2020, in the amount of $488,821.60 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Raise your hand, Councilor Kelly first and Councilor Moore second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Passed. Are there any additional reports you'd like to offer at this time? Seeing none, resolved the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Barbell, second by Councilor DeDominicis. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Passed. No correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending March 27th, 2020, in the amount of $2,750,070.13 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn in the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Barbell. Discussion. It is, I agree, and they're doing a lot of this from home, as you know, and coming in as necessary to get all their work done, doing a great job. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Passed. This time I'll entertain any comments from the public. I don't see any public members in person tonight. I'll wait for 30 seconds for the YouTube chat to complete. Beth, have you received any comments via the email for the council?
No, I haven't.
Okay, seeing none, please continue.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign construction access license agreement with St. John's Church to allow the city to construct improvements to a section of the sidewalk at the northwest corner of St. John's Church property on Margaret Street as part of the larger improvements associated with construction of the Arnie Pavone Memorial Parking Plaza.
Moved by Councillor Barbell and second by Councillor Moore. Discussion, please.
Yeah, help me out. Where does the St. John's Church touch Margaret Street property?
Hold on, let me pull up the resolution.
On the section of sidewalk at the northwest corner of St. John's Church's property on Margaret Street. The St. John's Church's property touches Oak Street and,
Yeah, it touches Oak Street, Broad Street, and Margaret Street, but the mailing address is Margaret Street.
St. John's Church? Are you sure? Because it's Division Street,
It
Broad
does.
Street.
Yeah, it wraps around and has the residency actually on Margaret
Yeah,
Street.
the rectory is on Margaret Street. It's all one parcel.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll need to do a roll call.
Councillor Barbell,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Gibbs,
Yes.
Councillor Gigaminnicus,
Yes.
Councillor McFarland,
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council authorizes the mayor to enter into a waiver agreement with the Clinton County Planning Board pursuant to General Municipal Law 239-M3C, which waiver agreement provides that certain proposed actions set forth in the agreement are of local rather than intercommunity or county-wide concern and are not subject to referral under General Municipal Law 239-M. Sorry.
Moved by Councillor Kelly, and second by Councillor Barbell. Discussion. And we'll need to do a roll call for this one as well.
Councillor Barbell,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Gibbs,
Yes.
Councillor Gigaminnicus,
Yes.
Councillor McFarland,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
approving abandonment of Division Street for Arnie Pavone Memorial Parking Plaza, portion of downtown area.
A waiver reading and move to resolution on item number C7C.
That's
Second that.
moved by Councillor McFarland, second by Councillor Gibbs. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Just as a point of procedure, I think we should try to limit the waiver of the readings just in case the public doesn't have the physical document in front of them. Sorry, Beth.
So I'm reading
I
it.
withdraw my motion.
Yes, you're reading it. Thank you.
Okay. Whereas the city of Plattsburgh revitalization effort will involve several downtown area improvement projects EIS pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and Section 617.10 of Title VI of the New York Compilation of Codes, Rules, and Regulations. And whereas the Common Council is duly designated lead agency pursuant to SECRA conducted a thorough SECRA review of the DAIP, including conducting, scoping, preparing draft and final generic environmental impact statements, EIS, conducting a public hearing and adopting a SECRA finding statement. And whereas the finding statement determined, among other things, that given the demonstrated public need and benefit of the DAIP, its lack of significant adverse environmental impacts, and its avoidance of such impacts by project design, location, and mitigation, its lack of significant adverse environmental impacts. Sorry.
Yes.
The decision to proceed with the project as proposed gave due consideration to and represented a reasonable and proper balancing of environmental considerations with social, economic, and other relevant considerations. And whereas the finding statement further determined and certified that consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations from among the reasonable alternatives available, the DAIP avoids or minimizes adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable and incorporates as conditions to the board's decision those mitigation measures that were identified as practicable. And whereas approval from the Common Council is now needed for the abandonment of Division Street, which is required to enable the Henri Pavone Memorial Parking Plaza, APMPP, to proceed. And whereas to maximize the amount of public parking in the APMPP, Division Street will need to be converted to publicly accessible parking spaces and sidewalks. And whereas written notice of proposed abandonment of Division Street was sent by certified mail to both adjoining landowners, Community Bank, and St. John's Church on or about March 9th, 2020, and public notice duly published. And whereas St. John's Church does not use or rely on Division Street for ingress or egress to their property, and Community Bank has requested that a means of egress be provided through the APMPP from their property. And whereas notice of public hearing was duly announced regarding a potential change to the official map of the city of Plattsburgh, and the public hearing was completed on March 26, 2020. And whereas the city planner, with input and comments from the city planning board, has provided a report to the Common Council regarding the potential abandonment of Division Street. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The Common Council has reviewed the proposed abandonment of Division Street and finds that it constitutes an integral component of the APMPP portion of the DAIP, which was thoroughly reviewed under SECRA. The potential environmental impacts of the abandonment of Division Street were adequately addressed as an essential component of the APMPP portion of the DAIP in the GEIS, and the finding statement and the proposed abandonment of Division Street is not likely to result in any new or different environmental impacts than those previously considered during SECRA review of the DAIP. Therefore, no further SECRA review is necessary. Pursuant to Chapter 295 of the City Code, that the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh finds that Division Street provides partial access only to a single lot or parcel of land, and the city planner advises that, and Common Council concurs and finds that Division Street, to the extent it is used as a vehicular thoroughfare, is not likely to be needed for a public purpose, including access now or at any time in the foreseeable future, and is therefore abandoned as a city street, and the official map of the city should be changed to reflect this abandonment. That the former footprint of Division Street will retain a public use to the extent the parking spaces and adjoining sidewalk will be open and utilized by the public. That Community Bank or their assigned shall retain a means of egress from their parcel through APMPP. That since the former footprint of Division Street will be utilized for a proper public purpose, the city will retain all rights and title to the former footprint of Division Street. The Common Council authorizes and directs the mayor, city clerk, director of community development, city attorney, and or special legal counsel to take such further actions as may be necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor DeDominicis. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor DeDominicis?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
$680,900 to $685,500.
Moved by Councilor Barbell and second by Councilor McFarland. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Barbell?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Dominicus?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council agrees to and authorizes the execution of a March 2nd, 2020 agreement with Schnabel Engineering for Mead Reservoir Hazard Classification Study for the lump sum fee of $20,500.
Moved by Councilor Barbell and second by Councilor Moore. Discussion, and Mr. Ruff is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, John, this is the one for checking on digging more wells and things of that nature?
Tangential to that, what it's going to do, it's going to study the level to which we can drop the pool level at Mead. And if we can reduce the hazard class, then the extent of stability improvements could decrease. And we won't have to put as much or maybe no money into stability enhancements. We're drilling the wells out around Mead so that we don't have to rely on the water that's in there as we drop the pool level.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Barbell? Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Dominicus? Counselor McFarland?
Yeah.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Adoption of local law P-2 of 2020, a local law amending in its entirety City Code Section 348-24 and setting water service rates and enacting regulations for levy and collections of water charges. This local law shall take effect immediately upon approval by the mayor and filing with the New York Secretary of State, the entire text of which has been distributed to and read by the members of the Common Council, is hereby enacted without the reading thereof, and a copy of said local law is made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Moved by Councilor Moore, second by Councilor Barbell. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Barbell?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Dominicus?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh as follows. Ordinance 2020-8A, authorization for driveway connecting two streets, Beekman Street and Cornelius Street. The Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh hereby ordains as follows. Findings. The Common Council finds City Code Section 360-22D prohibits driveways that connect two city streets except by ordinance adopted by the Common Council. There is an application pending for site plan approval and a building permit to construct a 94-unit addition and related site improvements on tax map parcel ID number 206.1-26.113, known as the Samuel F. Vilas Home Assisted Living Facility. The application site plan entitled Samuel F. Vilas Home Site Plan 2019, dated February 27, 2020, shows a driveway that connects Cornelius Street and Beekman Street. In addition, a sketch plan traffic analysis dated March 3, 2020 is provided as a detailed plan of the proposed exit-only driveway to Cornelius Street. The city planner has coordinated with the building inspector, fire department, police department, and the Department of Public Works, and the proposed site plan with driveway will not adversely impact traffic movement on Cornelius Street and Beekman Street and will not foster a shortcut access point. The primary purpose of City Code Section 360-22D is to prohibit private drives that connect parallel streets and permit motorists to take a shortcut to their destination. In this case, the driveway only allows exit to Cornelia Street through a traffic-controlled parking lot and is unlikely to be used by anyone other than persons patronizing the facility to be constructed on the lot. Authorization and waiver. Based upon the foregoing findings, the Common Council does hereby approve the construction of a private driveway that connects Cornelia Street and Beacon Street, as shown on Samuel Evila's home site plan dated 2/27/20, and sketch traffic analysis dated 3/3/20, and hereby waives the requirements of the City Code Section 360-22D with respect to the proposed private driveway. Effective date. The ordinance shall take effect immediately upon approval by the mayor and publication of the ordinance or a summary thereof one time in the official newspaper of the City of Plattsburgh and on the city website.
Moved by Councilor Kelly and second by Councilor McFarland. Discussion, and please note that Mr. Schwartzberg is here via video conference as well for any questions.
I just wanted to say I had an opportunity to talk this over, went to the site, and saw the site plans and things. I think, I mean, I definitely support this. I don't think it'll be a shortcut or an access point. I concur with building inspectors, the fire department, the other departments that have looked at it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor DeDominicus?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Any new business or additional council reports? Councilor Kelly.
Is Matt Miller still with us?
I'm still here, Mike.
Oh, okay. I was just curious about the rec department. Those facilities that are now closed, probably for the duration of the coronavirus crisis. Would you agree with that, Matt?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. What are the employees of that unit doing?
For the rec complex, they are taking care of a lot of the administrative work that still remains. There are also a number of longer-term projects that have, for operational reasons, just day-to-day business, not having the time or the resources to address it. They've been working on a series of those projects as well. At the labor staff from the rec department, some of them are still doing their normal duties, but several have been reassigned to the Department of Public Works, and they are reporting there on a daily basis and completing whatever tasks DPW thinks are most appropriate on any given day.
Okay. Are any of them working from home currently?
Some of the managerial staff is working from home. Most of the laborers are still coming in.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Sure. And Mayor, I had one last thing. That email I had sent you earlier this afternoon about the proposal for the tobacco fund money, if you wanted to discuss that tonight.
Sure. Why don't you bring the council up to speed?
Sure. I will turn it over to Milena, who has drafted the proposal. We've been discussing it for several weeks, but Milena, go ahead.
So this is a proposal to reappropriate $15,000 that the city was awarded back in, I believe, 2016 through the tobacco settlement funds. The money was originally set aside for a play structure at the beach. It was a replica of the USS Saratoga. There was some other grant funding associated with that project that was lost, so this money has kind of just been sitting idle for, I think, 4 years at this point. We received an email from Rodney Brown at the county stating that if the city wanted to keep that funding, they needed to apply by the April 1st deadline. basically reapply for the funds and come up with a scope of work to utilize it. And in our office, we've been talking about different ideas, and the one that we're proposing now is essentially piggybacking on the DRI funds that are being used for the Arts Park. You guys had a chance to review that project a couple weeks ago, and obviously it's been going on for a while now, but you haven't seen the final plans for that. There's 5 concrete pads that are being set aside for art sculptures or art pieces in the park. And right now there is no funding in the budget to actually develop those pieces of art. There's no money for that. So what we decided was to use that $15,000, or we're proposing to use that $15,000 as sort of a pool of money for local artists to apply to be able to utilize that to develop the art sculptures or art pieces for the park. Like I said, there's 5 different spots in the park for art, so we're thinking, a maximum of $3,000 per artist to be able to apply for that funding. And then, like I said, it complements the DRI project in the Arts Park, so that's what we're proposing right now. And again, this application is due April 1st, so it's kind of a tight timeline. So we're hoping to have you guys be able to discuss that tonight, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and let us know if you're okay with us applying for that funding. And Rodney also said if we don't apply by April 1st, then we're going to lose the money. So, like I said, kind of a tight turnaround.
Why not a dog park?
A dog park? Well, we did have a couple of different ideas we were throwing around. A couple of them did involve the Harborside area and some, play equipment down there, kind of piggybacking on the master plan that's upcoming. But this was sort of like the most shovel-ready project. I know this money's kind of been sitting idle for 4 years, so we kind of want to prove to the county that, hey, we do have an idea, we have a plan to use this, we can use it by 2020. So it was just the most shovel-ready project.
How was a dog park or a playground down at the harbor side not shovel-ready?
I think because we're kind of waiting for development to follow after the master plan has been developed, and that's at least 1.5 years out.
Further discussion? Okay, we'll proceed. Any other new business council reports? Any closing public comments? There's no members of the public live here right now. I'll give it 30 seconds for the YouTube chat to begin or to end. The only comment that's come in the open comment period here is asking for an update on the footbridge, whether it's delayed or due to be completed next month. Well, the city's constructing 2 new footbridges, and that will begin probably in the next few months. I don't know if I have a status report on what the school district's footbridge is doing. I think last I saw they were continuing construction over the winter. I do know that they applied for an IEEP grant to have energy efficient LED lights installed in the bridge, and the city's MLD granted them that grant, so they will have efficient lighting, and under the provision that they would be keeping it lit at night as well. And I think the last budget figure I had was somewhere around $670,000 or $700,000 for completion of the bridge. Anybody else have any more information that might be more recent than mine? That was probably as of about a month ago.
Mayor, I've made a hobby of walking over there occasionally since one side of it's in my ward, and it's still very much under construction. I don't know their timeline, but it looks like they got a lot of work left.
Okay, so just in case the public didn't hear that, Councillor Kelly is near where he lives, and he believes it's still very much under construction, has a fair amount of work to be left. And the commenter thanks you for your comments. Thank you for the update. Seeing no other comments, then do I have a meeting to adjourn? Or motion to adjourn, pardon me. Moved by Councilor DeDominicis and second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call, please.
Counselor Barbell?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor DeDominicis?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yeah.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Well, thank you all very much. This technology I know is a little bit cumbersome, but you did very well, and you stay safe and remember social distancing. Take care. Bye-bye.